All right, everybody, welcome back. I hope that you all are doing fine. Well, if you see a fringe here and there, it's from my poncho. Guess what? It's poncho time. So it has become like real fall. When you dig out that poncho from the closet, you know it's change of season. I've been having quite a flirt with this Inktober book, not working with markers, but having a second look at all the illustrations in it. Let me, you know, look at these cute bears right here. And notice how on the background it's just a collection of dabs with a brush to make an emotion or something. And I look at this, a page like this. We all know these illustrations, right? It's like we see them in Flow magazines, in Daphne's Diary magazines. It's like there's no real focal point. It's more like portraying certain feeling, like an essence of summer or a breakfast table. There's nothing wrong with that because we all as women, you know, we have our proud moments when we set the table before the guest arrives. Some even take pictures of it and put it on Instagram. I'm not that, you know, advanced, but hey, I am one of those who likes to look back at a well prepared dinner table before the guest arrived, knowing that everything is just perfect. So and I think these images reminds me of situations like that, you know, the perfect setup in your garden where you have cultivated your flowers in pots and you set up aesthetically your chair with creating a scenery behind it. But what I would like to say is that I've looked at a lot of pictures like that in my life, but never really tried to make one of those. So I've been having a flirt, if you can call it that, with this painting style instead of focusing on using markers. So, oh, hang on, I think I hear a bird or something. What's going on? Can you hear it? Yeah, okay, that was a nasty interruption. It was the cat coming home with a bird. But don't worry, I managed to grab the bird, set it free again. So it's outside in the garden. But back to these yummy illustrations. So difficult to jump into and try painting because some of them are like really detailed. But I look at the way they create brushstrokes around the painting, and I really like that loose watercolor style to be used in, let's say, just a journal, because you don't need like a designated square to put in your illustration. This illustration can spread out and be as much part of the page spread as it needs to be, and then kind of blends out with these brushstrokes right here. So I'm kind of falling in love with this way of creating a tiny drawing on a page. And I simply like all the wonky, you know, it's like so wonky and just a hand sketched loose style. So I have been I have to say I have been flirting with that, trying to get to learn how to do it, and I'm still just practicing, so it's not like I think I'm there yet. But so far I made this one, trying to get that blurry blending out, because I'm picturing in my head that I could have this as an illustration in a journal, for example. And then I also made this teacup where I got more systematic brush strokes and not just random strokes like on this one. So I kind of like this a whole lot better. And I love the way that you can, in the background, go from a purple to a greenish to a blue. So you can not stay true to original shading colors, but your shading colors right here is just a mix of the green, the purple, and the blue. So I like the way that it aspires you to move away from traditional wave of putting things on a drawing. Like I didn't feel the need to put this on a table, you know, or set it on the table or a surface with a designated dark shadow. So I like that they are like floating kind of just there. This one is so beautiful. It reminds me of a quilt. I can so see this done in fabric. If Roy saw this, he would agree with me that, woo, this would be a pretty front on a tote bag. So, yeah. I'm simply working with the illustrations from the book and then doing my take on it, trying to, what I see they are doing, I'm trying to do the same. Like here where there is a dinner plate right here, but it kind of disappears into the background. I like that effect. And once again, working with shadows that are kind of random colors, but not black or dark gray. So really likable. And this, ooh, I love this so much. I think this is what I want to venture into, this symphony of a lot of brushstrokes, a lot of colors, kind of abstract, clearly telling you what it is that you're watching, but yet it's kind of blurred out. So it's got this kind of a dreamy look, you know. Very roughly done. Look at the apple, how I just skipped a lot of nice blending by just doing sporadic brush strokes. And this one also, I really like the way that it turned out, especially the flower bouquet. Unfortunately, I made this while I was arting on the couch. And the way that I'm set up is that I got the paper resting on my lap, so I got some severe foreshortening in this one. You might not see it when I'm holding it like this, but let's just pretend that I'm tipping it like this. So this is the angle that I was seeing when I made this from my lap in the living room. So now you can really see the negative effect of foreshortening. Or maybe it's just me being picky, because I actually had this view all the time when I made it, and then get a little bit disappointed when I look at it front to front. So lesson learned. If you really, I didn't think that I was going to sketch so much in this painting. So but now in hindsight, I think that I should have taken this painting more seriously with the sketching, because you are going to fill in the work of putting in all the colors anyway, so why not try to get it way on the paper like you really want it. So this is also an image from the book that I worked with. I have to show you the image from the book. What intrigues me about this image is the way that splatters and blending out colors just becomes a harmony. Like the blurry background, leaves falling, a lot of splatters, and you kind of can't tell what color this blanket is that the cat is sleeping on, let alone how can you define this pillow here. So I tried to do my rendition of it and learned a lot from painting it, because it is very nice to have these soft transitions to the background, and you know, it was just really a nice learning curve to make this painting. So I like that a lot. But I wanted to share it with you guys because I know that a lot of you are doing some art journaling, where you got like this kind of a diary, daily based sketchbook maybe. and would love to have illustrations on one side and then you're journaling on the other side, for instance, or you know, gluing in some collage ephemeras. And I think this style is worth looking towards. You know, this here is just a bench in a garden, but it tells so much about the atmosphere. Once again, reminding me of still life. You know, like you set up a still life before you make an oil painting. So yeah, let's try and just focus on one of these illustrations and try and see if I can do a decent study from it. I had my eyes set on one. Let's see, where is it? Okay, I'm gonna find it. But I really like the color scheme, and I'm using gouache doing these things because the splatters is going down with gouache, and then I can see that there is a lot of light hues on top of dark values. So that's why I instantly thought that this was not a watercolor image, it's made with gouache. So now I'm flipping through a lot of this one. I really like this one. I hope that my light is giving it justice. It's like this purplish bluish tone with something looking like a celestial background. There is no real definition of a table, but you know that things are standing on a surface, but you can't really see the transition from the surface to the background. So that's kind of my focus, you know, because I really like that dreamy expression it gets, that dusty just put there. So I can imagine if I can learn how to do these things, that I would utilize them more in my private diary, or what's it called, journal. Being more motivated to put in tiny sketches like that, but still take the sketch to a beautiful approach where I'm kind of using the colors that I like to see on the paper. So that's why I like this style where you don't have traditional colors for the flowers or the bouquet or the vase. You just have your color palette and then painting in your items using those limit colors. So yeah, let's give it a try. But let's get some shout out in place before I start up by telling that the illustrations in this book is done by an artist called Juliette Clarke, and the way that I've worked with her illustrations or artwork is that I simply just look at the page and then I pick out most of the elements I've tried to put in, and then I'm painting on Wood Pulp Academy Aquarelle 300 GSM watercolor paper from Sennelier, and the size is so much larger than the illustration because I really think that it presents itself better on a big sheet of paper. The reason why I started focusing on wanting to learn how to do these illustrations is because I did actually try just on a tiny sheet of A5 watercolor paper to do the illustration that I'm going to paint today, and I did such a half-assed job. I didn't really get the point that she's using a galaxy background, and the reason why I'm streaming and going so in detail with this today is because I know that all of us out there can make a freaking galaxy, you know, like how many times haven't we painted a galaxy painting? So she's using the same technique for the background where you just have a wet wash, mix in colors, do white splatter or black splatter on top of it. So what she's adding to that technique is that she uses the galaxy as a background but put in items on the foreground. Not on this one, of course, now when I'm talking about it. This is different. This is where she's just still using white splatters, but having random brush strokes to make the painting kind of blur and blend out to the frame. So I really like that approach for sketchbook work, where you can just let it blend out and be a part of your page, right? So awesome. And this one is this one here, where I was so intrigued about the way that she just let the dinner plate disappear. So this tiny square up here was my motivation for blurring it up, learning the technique, because I can picture, can you picture if you had like a blue tinted spread in a journal, and then in the corner on one page you have this illustration, and then the color just ventures out and be a part of the page, and then you can journal with a white gel pen. How awesome would that look? I'm telling you guys, I can just see it. So, and this illustration right here is, here's my rendition of it, and it was like these random brush strokes. I was struggling a little bit with it. Like I said, I'm using gouache. This is my gouache palette, and it comes without a mixing tray, so I just use a regular mixing tray from a watercolor palette. But this is the medium that I'm painting with, and it's nothing special, it's just dried up gouache. But hey, there is a lot. Look how big this chunk is right here. There is a lot of product left. It weighs like a ton. And I have not used it for quite a while because I dislike using gouache when it's dry. And I kind of feel that I'm ruining my brushes because it's so stinking hard. It's like really, like, it feels like cement hard, but you are able to re-wet it. I worked with brushes from Royal and Langlegal. They are synthetic brushes, because the synthetic carry less water than my, you know, I use real hair on my watercolor brushes, and they carry a lot of moisture. So these synthetic, this is one that's really well washed, so it's still got the white tip. Gouache is not that staining compared to watercolor, so you can actually wash down your brushes and get that white hair back, but I'm really hard on my brushes. But I find that these soft synthetic bristles are ideal for gouache, and especially the flat. I use a round one for the more intricate pieces, but a short flat is what I like to work with in these paintings. And yeah, for the splatter, I simply just take a toothbrush and then, you know, squish it around into the white gouache pan, and then with my fingers do like this, and then I get a fine, dusty, misty splatter, just like she has been using on her illustrations. Oh, maybe you can't see it, but she's got a ton of white dusty splatter. That kind of is a returning theme in all her illustrations, is that she's really showering her paintings when done with these really tiny small specks of splatter, and you can achieve that by using a toothbrush compared to if you're trying to flicker it off from a fan brush. So yeah. And this one I altered it, you know. I put in the animal stickers, like bug stickers from the Sticker Antiquarian book, like they're having a pool party in a teacup. But if you look past the sign and the bugs, you can actually see her Juliette Clarke's illustration. So this is my rendition of it. What I like about this is the details on the cup. I think that I often have painted a teacup, but I have refrained from making a pattern on the cup itself and on the dish. because was I lazy? I don't know. I just never really thought that it was something that I wanted to go in with a tiny brush and then sit and do all these details. But that's what I'm using the round brush for, to make these details. And this beautiful work here is this one. So, and the cat, I think I showed the cat on the illustration. And this is the illustration that was this painting here. So as you can see, I really tried to stay true to what she is painting, and then I'm, you know, doing my best. And then I'm trying to give myself soft edges, because that's one of the things I want to learn and take with me from this little adventure here. The page is like stopping right here, but I really love this way that it's like cutting off the handle of the teapot and kind of just blurring out into just the paper. So the soft emerging edges in this style is something that has my focus, because I really would love to learn to paint beautiful stuff like these illustrations. And like I said, I think we all have seen a ton of these in magazines and in paper pads, whatnot. Seen it all over. And it looks like a tedious job to do, because some of them actually has a ton of detail, like this one. It seems it would get almost take your breath away just having to sketch it, right? So that's why I like the one that I keep saying we. I feel that I am hoping that someone is painting along with me, but that's why I'm picking the illustration for today specifically because of its wonky sketch work. So it shouldn't be intimidating for anyone to try, and especially if you have played with making galaxy paintings, this should be like not an issue to make, hopefully. Oh my god, I should put in a sticky note. But before I start sketching, can you see how everything is done with a pencil, looking fast? The proportion of this vase right here is atrocious. It's so not in shape, and you know, yeah, it's just yeah, it's roughly done. The dinner plate is not even totally round. You can see she just winged it. Yeah, and the flowers are not true to how the colors are in real nature. It's just her color palette where she's putting in where she likes it to be. So that's the kind of freedom that I love about this illustration right here. What I love is also the mix of the very blurry galaxy background combined with detail work. Like this level of easiness and detail next to each other. I think that's what brings this together as an interesting painting that you want to look at more than once. So I also keep that in mind, that don't skip those tedious tiny details, because it works in a composition together with all the loose style, just works. So yeah, let me start sketching. It takes so long to sketch. So I think I'll just sketch and then let you guys not bore yourself out for 15 minutes, and then I'll come back and put in the colors. Okay, I mean, almost done sketching, but I wanted to take one particular part with you. Or one of the detail area right here. It can be kind of intimidating, because if you look at the strokes and everything, it's still kind of a messy style, but there are some sort of detail. So I just wanted to show you how I attack these kind of illustrations. I can see that there is this shape that I start drawing in like this, and then I make my own symmetry in it. I stop looking at the reference photo and then do what I know that I can do. So it kind of makes it easier to conquer. If you stick to some skills that you know I can do that, then it doesn't become difficult. So instead of painting in roses, I just do circles like that on the opposite side. And then I know that she is painting in a lot of beautiful green leaves. So what I do is that I simply just sketch the suggestions of leaves, and I try to make it as symmetric as possible so that one side of the illustration will not have a heavier weight than the other. And instead of painting roses at the end of this ellipse, I would simply just do one of those imaginary flowers. Because like I said, stick to what you know you can do and what you would enjoy doing, instead of getting caught up in a reference photo and finding it too difficult, because then it's not fun, you know. You know, you can always challenge yourself with a real rose one day if you got the time for it, but now where you are making a rather huge painting, it can kind of be breathtaking having to also deal with tiny details. So am I even focused right there? So that's the amount of sketching that I would do for the most detailed areas. And then I can see that it kind of disappeared into a very dark colored background. So I would trust that the only place I probably would need to suggest an ongoing pattern from this dinner plate would be in sporadic places. So can you see how you can just settle for making two sketches for this whole plate and then hopefully get away with it? So yeah, I'm actually almost done with the dinner plate. So let me just see what else. Nothing else. I'm tempted to, if I should go in with ink tints on some of the areas. No, let's just keep it straight gouache, straight up gouache. This is my finished sketch. Sorry for the lightning, the camera just don't like white paper. So hopefully if you're painting along with me, you can pause the recording at the places where you need to. But this is the finished sketch. And this is Juliette Clarke's beautiful illustration of a still life with vases made out of glass, and it's like thick glass, so that's why you got two lines. Look at the line work inside the glass vases. So I really like the detail with the fat bottom of the glass. So it's gonna be joyful to make this. Okay, let the fun begin. I'm working with dry gouache. Normally when I work with gouache, I like to work with it fresh out of tube, and then I use the white gouache as my liquid. But this is different because re-wetting these solid dried up chunks requires water, right? So that's why I kind of not so happy working with dried up gouache, because you use a lot of water to just moist them up, and then you suddenly are painting like you're using watercolor. So let's just do it like that, using it more like a watercolor, but it's still got the gouache quality, which is that it doesn't spread so much. It kind of stays put where you lay it, and you can dilute it with white. So in case I want a step out from this pinkish color, I still would go in with white gouache. So now I got white on my brush, and then I just dip that into my released water mix of the gouache. And I think that I would kind of accept that this takes 2 coats. One to put in the color, and then one to kind of blend it out on the paper. So I would just gently put in the pink on half of the flower, then clean off my brush, and then go in with sort of, this is almost too wet, but sort of a damp brush. And look how I don't care about staying inside the lines. I'm simply trusting that when I put in the background, I will cover up the areas where I didn't stay inside the line. And the reason for doing this is because it helps me get that really loose style that I so enjoy in this illustration. Plus it also speeds up the painting session, because it's a very relaxed way of painting, you know. It's not like you have to be so meticulous with where you put things and have a nice blend. So that's actually making it a very delightful way of making this illustration. So this would actually be how I would make the first coat with gouache, and then I'm simply just gonna let it dry and see how it lands on the paper when it's dry. I find that gouache is so easily to lift from the paper, so if you don't like the way that it dries up, you can simply just go in with a wet brush and then kind of scrub off your pigment, and then take it off with I almost said the kitchen roll, some paper. But this is very, very liquid. I got like too much water on this. So this is where I'm like on the edge of thinking that, should I go in doing it watercolor style because it's so wet, you know? But let's just stick to it. Now I want to start mixing in colors on my palette. So I think I will go for a yellow to make this a little bit more peachy. I'm in particular fond of this kind of darker yellow. So now I get a totally different color, but still kind of peach. And I'm not like totally following her color scheme, because I want to break loose from you know, traditionally when you are making a rendition of a flower, you kind of have to stay true to your reference photo. But what I love about this style here is that it seems to be a very free, spontaneous way of coloring in your images. So I really think I would love to learn more about how to do these things. I'm so fond of doing daily sketches in the morning and stuff. So this sketch style here, where it's so loose and you're not painting inside the lines and everything, just really appeals to me. Now I need something greenish. I think I would go with this olive green because it's a very mute green. It's not a fresh green like an emerald green. It's more like a dusty green. So I can push it back and forth by using ultramarine or the yellow that I just picked up. And it's very clumsy to use a flat brush for these things, but it kind of adds to the finished look. Picking up a little bit of yellow here. But notice how I don't really care if I'm putting in the pigment nicely. And this is why I think it's worth paying attention to these sorts of illustrations, because it really takes out a lot of the pressure, or you can just not be neat. Look at my light. I got such crazy light. It is so annoying. I think it's like the white of the paper that's really making it difficult for my camera. Hopefully when I get more done on this painting, the light will behave. Maybe I should just start working on the background then, and then hopefully get a better rendition of the light. I really love how you can, with gouache, just go in with white and then create a new color, because that really makes the palette, like the one that I got, super versatile. Like I can, with just using 4 limited colors, get like 50 colors on the paper with the same pans. Not that I aim for just being limited, you know, for just being limited, but in a painting like this where you are kind of making a celestial dance in the background using primarily pink, ultramarine, purple, and a hint of, yeah, maybe green. I think that it's very quickly going to be a little bit muddy if you have too many colors beside those that you use for your background. So that's why I'm trying only to use my background colors for the color scheme of what's inside the painting. The stem, I would totally recommend switching to a round brush. Still got almost like watercolor condition here with the gouache. Feels so weird. But now it's gonna help me, because now I'm coming to the stem that's like inside the bottle. So we know that the color will not have the same value as the stem that's above the outside the bottle. So that's just nice. So far I got this on the paper, and it's very like clumsy painted, you could call it that, but it kind of sticks true to my goal. Now I want to work with the bottle itself, and I can see that she have picked out purple and blue to be the two primary colors for the bottle. So it looks like she's been using ultramarine blue as the first background color, so let's do the same. I would start just like lay down ultramarine like this, and then I would wash my brush and then switch to the purple. I can come in when it's all done with a white gel pen to make the highlights. That would be like really cute. There is a pinkish hue, so to achieve that I'm just gonna grab the pink from the flower. And you could actually, with the pink, make your violet. So in case you want to keep the coloring of the bottle with only two pans, you could pick the Opera Rose lookalike and then the ultramarine, and then just through mixes paint in this whole glass bottle with just those two colors, and it will kind of merge together. It will marry together in a nice way. I'm gonna use Prussian blue for the galaxy background. I can hardly wait. I think it's so beautiful that she picked up this technique with having a galaxy background to her illustrations. What a clever girl. Can you see how dominant that blue stroke is right there? If you want to push it back, you just take some white gouache on your brush and go on top of it instead of trying to brush it out on the paper, you know. I hope you know what I mean. Then you can just manipulate with it with the white gouache, and I think it just gives a more subtle result than if I had brushed it away with my with my brush. Yeah, I'm a little bit bad at explaining myself. This bottle over here is kind of in the back, so instead of ultramarine for the blue in this bottle, I would totally switch to the Prussian. The Prussian blue is like a darker expression than the ultramarine, so I'm just gonna do it right now because I remember it. Sometimes I get an idea and then because I'm not there yet I forget it, so better just put that in now before I forget it. And because Prussian blue is such a clean cold blue color, I think it will be perfect to use the Opera Rose pinkish pan to mix the purple, because both of them are cool tones, so it will actually make a pretty purple, like a really bright purple. Ultramarine is more, in my opinion, a warm blue, so you have to be a little bit cautious by using an opera rose with a warm blue, because opera rose, in my opinion, is a cool red. And here again I take white gouache on my brush to soften out edges and transitions instead of using a wet brush to do so. I still need to get some sort of green tone on the stem, so I'm just gonna take the round brush with a little bit of the olive green and put it in, just a suggestion of the green. But look how sloppy it's painted. It's gonna dry up looking nice, and I know when you look at this, it's kind of, you could say, in the ugly stage right now because it looks like, oh, it's sloppy and it's too messy, but it will look cohesive once the background and more is painting, more is done on the painting. So just kind of trust the mess. Now I feel that I'm ready to work on the background because I got the initial layers here. So what I want to do is I'm just gonna moisture the edge of the bottles, because I want a soft edge here and a sharp edge here. So I'm just going in and moist the left side of the bottle on both of them. I don't even know why I do that. I think I do it because, I don't know, you know, when you paint flowers like roses, then one side you got a soft edge, and then on the other side it looks cool if you got a hard edge, like one of those lost and found edge theories, I think. For me, it's just kind of a habit, and I really like the look of it. So in one end of the painting, I am inviting the object to marry to the background, so it's kind of get merged into the substrate, and then on the other edge I can actually have like a hard edge. But what I'm talking about is inviting in the background color on the wet edge area, so it will look like this. It's not super visual, but when it dries out there will be like a seamless edge where it just becomes oh, it's actually a good example to look at this right now, because here you got the hard edge and the soft edge, and this bottle is further behind, so it kind of just looks okay that this is pushed behind in the background, so it's got like a blurry edge to the background, where this one that's in the front got that hard edge. So yeah, but you do you. You do you. If you don't want to mess with these things, then it's totally understandable. On the paper, my gouache managed to dry up, so I got a very hard edge right there. I can deal with it by softening it up with more water, and I would totally recommend that if you have any hard edges where you don't want it. Just put in more liquid on the area and try and soften it up. And gouache is like really good at that. I have no idea why. I just find it effortless to soften up hard edges when I'm working with gouache compared to watercolor. So it's very forgiving. This flower area here, I think I would concentrate on carrying up the Prussian blue in this area here, and then start diluting the Prussian blue with the opera rose to get purples and pinks. So I deliberately get like a very dark center background. And to do so, I think I need to switch my brush to the round tip, because it's a little bit intricate up here. And here it's a little bit annoying. It's just like, you know, when you have like a coloring page, you have to maybe sometimes paint in the background with a dark color. Some like to do it with dark ink and a brush, and this is just the exact same tedious kind of job, because you have to be careful. But tips and tricks on this part is that if you don't want that hard edge when you are finishing putting in color in one area, simply wet the brush and then carry out the pigments until it fades to the paper. So that's why you get like a concentrated potent color in here, like mass tone, and then just blend it out softly, and then you can go on top of this softly blend with the color that you decide the background should be. I like when you're coloring around an object that you got somehow the same color on both sides of, like, can you see how I met a stem right there? Then I like for the other side of the stem, this area here, also to be Prussian blue, even though that it's like a new section of the page where it could be tempting to go in with a dark purple, or, you know, like change up the hue. But I think it looks somehow more cohesive if you stay true to your colors when you are blocking in background around one object. But that's just me. They say that gouache tend to dry up a little bit darker than you applied it. I am having like a really watered down, almost watercolor look gouache, so I don't trust that mine will dry up darker. So now where I want like a really dark background, I'm just simply gonna make it that hysterical dark, so I don't have to come and revisit this area. Yay, looks like my camera is picking up better colors now where I'm putting in more colors on the paper. Okay, up here I initially wish to tone out my background colors to a purple or a pinkish hue, but since I got this rule about having the same dark background color around an object, I'm gonna deal with it like this. First I put in the same color, like continuing it, right? And now, while it's wet, I start introducing the hue that I really want. So now I feel that I can kind of get away from the bluish tones to the new mixes, which would be like purplish, pinkish. And then because I'm not decided where to carry it from now, or don't want to work on that right now, I can take a damp brush and then make it fade out. So now I got like a nice soft edge to continue from right there. Yeah, and the reason why it's important to give you those temporary finishes of soft edges is because sometimes when you have to put in colors in a area like this that kind of branches out into a labyrinth of things, you cannot keep focus on 4 different wet edges panically going back and forth between them to avoid a hard dry up edge. So that's why it's so deliberating, knowing that you can just do like this, and then you can go out, make a cup of coffee, you can leave the painting and trust that you can come back to a not hard edge, like a soft edge. I really have enjoyed making watercolor paintings on giant sheets of watercolor paper, and I always struggle with the edges because sometimes I'm doing like big washes on big pieces of paper, and then I get so stressed having to work with the, you know, keeping a wet edge wet. I am re-wetting this side of the bottle because it seems to have dried up, and like I said, I like a soft edge contra a hard edge on the other side. But it's a really likable motif, these flowers. It probably is a rendition of a flower that exists in real life, but I wouldn't know what it is. And sometimes I feel it's an advantage not knowing exactly how it's supposed to look in real life, because then it's so much easier to do an abstract rendition and just following some sort of spontaneous gut feeling of where to change up a flower's petal to make it work best with your sketch, and not having to worry about if it looks like that in real life. I'm gonna have like a nasty bloom right there. For fun, I'm gonna leave it there because it looks like a background branch. So I'm just gonna watch that bloom. Just, you know, supervise it a little bit, see where it's going to end up. But did you see how I just brought in the background color into the vase with my stroke? So this corner of the vase has got the same value as the background right now. That's what I mean when I'm talking about trying to marry your items to the background so it becomes like a part of the whole drawing and not looking like some die cut that you placed. I'm not good at following her picture at the moment when I'm working with the background, because I kind of just want my own take of it. It gives me more freedom to paint like this when I don't have to totally copy the reference photo. Just letting it be a galaxy developed as I go. What works easiest for me, instead of having a 100% look-alike. Now I actually need a break. I cannot sit for that long. But before I leave, I can see that here I would like some dark, just a hint of dark contrast right here. Yeah, now I need to take a break. But so far I like that I got dark background color in the top of the bouquet, in the space between the vases. This is also a vase, so I like that. And I'm of course also going to carry the dark Prussian blue to this edge here when I'm starting painting in the plate. So there will be some sort of symmetry going on. So, yep. Okay, it dried up. I tried to put a palette there so that my camera got more colors to focus on and not just white paper. Do remember that I, on the top flowers here, mixed in a yellow. I have a plan with that. I'm gonna deviate a little bit from the reference photo because I think it would look beautiful if I had like some warm sunlight coming in from the top. So my plan is to bring out some warm tones up here where the majority is going to be mixed with ultramarine, and then also use some yellow up here, and then down here at the bottom of my drawing I'm gonna focus on the cooler tones using the Prussian blue to mix my mixes with the The purple is called purple. So in order for me not to forget my plan, because sometimes, you know, when you're painting, you're just zoning in on one area and next area, and then you kind of forget the whole picture. So in order not to forget that plan, I'm simply gonna lay in a yellow wash. Very, you could say, as diluted as possible. So first I come in with the yellow, wipe off my brush, dry it so it's damp, and then kind of bringing bringing it in. And I'm not really thinking about what I'm covering here, other than I'm thinking, if I was a sunbeam, where would I kind of hit something on this table. And then I'm gonna be a little bit bold up here by giving this area right here also a yellow watery wash. It's not gonna be like totally visible, but I would know that it's there, which is just nice. And by doing this yellow wash, I also cover up all the white areas, tiny white areas where I did not yet paint. And this yellow is going to appear like greenish when it's mixed with a top layer of ultramarine. Oh my god, you can't even see anything because of my camera. But it is like very subtle, very faint. And like I said, you probably won't even notice it. But I would know that it's there. So that's what matters, right? Got a little bit too hot edge right there. But yeah, then I'm gonna clear off that Prussian from my palette, because now we're switching to the ultramarine for the blue. Whoa. I think that I would like to have like a purple area here, because it is like a background where the dinner plate is standing in front. And to be sure that I get like a really dark area that's going to be softened out lighter, I'm gonna start in this corner here. And the way that I'm gonna work with it is that while I'm painting, I'm gonna put in the ultramarine. Sure, it gives like a little bit clumsy blend, but I think it would look awesome with the white galaxy splatter on top of it. And since I know that the opera rose that I'm using for the flowers is like a cool tone, I will actually be brave and try and take a warm red and mix in with my ultramarine and see what I get. And then I actually get a very likable lavender color. So now I am actually introducing a fourth color. But only to realize my plan about having warm tones up here. So now where I got like a warm red introduced up here, I would not hesitate using it for the small roses inside the dinner plate. So what's going on in my head right now is that I have to remember exactly what red I used for that, because I'm anal like that. Oh man. But hey, if you don't like to play like this, just skip that part. I'm gonna put in some yellow up here just to warm up this corner up here, because I really would like to emphasize that the light is coming from this corner, so that's why I got like a dark here and a bright here. Can you see a bloom is forming up over here because I used too much water on my brush? Let's pick it up while we still can, and I would suggest to pick it up with some of the red color, because if I can't save this bloom, it will dry up in a more interesting way because I got another color mixed into it. Can you see? I got like it was meant to be somehow, you know, like, oh, that bloom is just continuing. The reason for blooms is that I got a variation of water on my brush from one application to another. So what I got now up here is this very confusing background where it's a little bit difficult to say, is it purple, is it let me close that window just a moment. Okay, I got the mixing done on the paper, so it looks like a little bit confusing, but I hope that it will turn out really nice when we put in the white of the galaxy splatter. So I'm still confident that it's okay. I want to bring in some purple and blue to this area here, but I have some yellow, so I kind of know that I have to concentrate the ultramarine to this corner here to not get mud. So I'm simply just giving it a light wash of the ultramarine and then preparing that yellow corner to transition into something purple. So that's how I try not to get mud while I'm making this painting. Oh, I'm sorry. Using the warm red, giving me a very likable, like darker purple, you could say. Because I need to negative paint around these tiny buds up here to make them pop, right? Because right now they got the same value as the background, so they kind of disappear a little bit. So one efficient way to make them pop is to go in with a darker hue around them. Oh, I'm sorry. I got throat issues. Oh man, it's just so likable to work like this. I really enjoy this very, just, you know, like no rules, you're just putting in colors sporadically. So you're kind of getting this very likable look where the background is suddenly a ton of colors. Oh, sorry for being so quiet. I'm just really enjoying this painting session. I like the top part here. It's gonna look nice with the splatters that's coming on. I dislike this area right here because it seems like I painted with too wet Prussian on the background, so I kind of got hard edges. The way to deal with it is to go in with a damp brush and then just soften up the edges a little bit. That's really likable. Right now I am thinking if I need something more dark over here. Okay, let's not just think about that so much. I'm gonna color in the plate right now. And I got that yellow wash on top of it, so I don't really want to put in anything purplish. And I think that I will just make it wet in a like a ultramarine wash, and then with a piece of kitchen roll dab it off like you're kind of lifting clouds on a sky. And now I can start introducing the Prussian blue and the one that I call, it's a magenta, but I call it opera rose because then people kind of know that it's this very pinkish color. I sort of have a circle shaped on this plate, so I think I would let the pink be outside that circle, and then maybe some blue tones inside that circle, and that's how I'm gonna emphasize that circle right there. I'm basically just you could say mixing on the paper. Here I need a hard edge on this side of the bottle, and I need it to be in a very dark Prussian blue color. To kind of get into that area right there, I think I would put in a little bit green on the bottom of this plate. And now I'm going back to the yellow just to have like a yellow bottom down here. And I also think that the yellow would jump off to the bottle somehow. And sometimes in glass it can actually jump from the top down to the bottom of the glass. Okay, this area here, I think I'm gonna wet it first, because then I find that it's easier to get the Prussian blue to move a little bit. So it starts out like very potent, kind of carving out the shape of this end of the bottle right here. And then pink to the rescue. And with the keys, I'm following my rule about having the same shadow background color on both sides of the tiny object. So it was kind of given that this area here should be this purple. I think I should bring in some of the green down this area here, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But now I feel that I got most of my background blocked in, so it's going to be exciting to see how it dries up. But while we're waiting on that, we can do some moves here, because one thing is painting where you add color, another just as important thing when you're painting is to remove color. So I would definitely start lifting off some color from the bottles, because I know that it got white reflections. So if I can have the paper to be the bright instead of the gel pen, I would prefer that. It gives a more harmonious look, I think. So it's always nice to think when you're creating painting that it's a two-step. Like, one is to add color, and then halfway through that process, before you go in with your final touch, you have a chance to also remove color. And when you're working like wet and wet, it's very difficult to preserve some areas bright, because yeah, I mean, it's just really difficult without getting those really hard edges. So it's better to just rely on the fact that you can always take off pigment. I also think that right now would be a good time to go in and soften up some of the flowers. To soften them up, I'm simply gonna use white gouache. And I'm gonna just test it first on this petal here, see if I like it. The thing with white gouache is that I'm putting it on like very thin layer, and it will act like when you are using a thin layer of the white watercolor, that it will dry up differently than what you see. So it's kind of important that you just push it back and forth and don't depend on having a perfect application the first time, but just kind of play with it. I also would like to add in some more green tones to the leaves, and because I'm up in the area where I got sunlight, I'm working with a brush that I dip from both pans, hoping to get like a dual tone of a leaf color, so that I will only need to touch it like once with my brush instead of 1,000 times. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Here I think I'm killing it with pigments, so I'm taking it off again. You could kind of see that I had like too thick a layer of color compared to the rest of the flower bouquet. I really want those light buds pop, so I will try with the white gouache to come in, make them even lighter, and then mix myself some ultramarine blue for this area up here, and then see if I can sculpt out the flower buds by using negative painting, where you simply just push back the tone of the background to a darker color, hoping to make the flowers pop more. I love this part of painting where you have to, I would call it fix it. Like you're sitting listening to a podcast or hearing music, and then just silently sit and kind of just fix what is bothering you. I can't wait to splatter this with white. That's the best part of a galaxy painting, is when you go in with the white splatter. I don't think that I will use any other color than white, because I think that black dots on this one is a little bit harsh. So if I should need like a dark splat color, I would use I think the Prussian blue would be my pick. I'm not happy about the way that I'm blending out this area up here. But at least I got the buds to pop more. I think that these petals actually are white from nature, but they're never like really white, so I'm gonna give them like a wash of blue tint. Just to begin with, just to see what happens. And this one is actually covering another. They're like layered up, so I can use the blue as some sort of shadow color. And then I can see that she has painted these marks up with a color, so I'm doing the same. Oh, I'm really enjoying this painting. I'm wondering right now, because the recording is, you know, taking its time now, if I should squeeze this together into a speed painting, but I think I will leave it as a real life painting, because I really have confidence that in case anyone wants to try this, it's so doable. This needs to dry up, and then I'm gonna push back the blue stripes so they don't look so much in your eye. I got this peachy color right here. I'm gonna make some dots on this edge of the plate. It's like a very detailed area of the plate, so I think I'm gonna try and have it as detailed too, because I really think there is this fine dance between the very intricate areas of this painting with smashed up next to the very loose painting style in a very likable way. Okay, while this is drying, I would like to work on this vase down here, and it's got like a blue edge. And then it's got maybe, I think, some blue undertones here. But the majority, the color of this vase is going to be that purple color. But it would be kind of boring just to have it purple, right? So I'm gonna tease it a little bit with a bluish wash. when dabbing off, it gives just a fun texture, I think. Okay, this star shape is totally reminding me of quilting. I think I will give it like a yellow center. Okay, let's let that dry for a bit. Oh, too wet a brush. I like this a lot. I got a very bit of the blue on my brush. I think I'm just gonna paint in the keys. Actually, I think I'm gonna be really messy and make it totally a part of the background also, because I've been very sloppy with the background, so I got a lot of white specks that I don't really like the look of. So I would rather have it just blending into the background like this than facing all the white specks. Okay, I got these, it looks like berries or something on the flower. I'm just gonna give them a blue tone. Now this has dried up more, so now I can go in and soften up the blue marks that I made, because I really think that they are too harsh for this painting style. So I just go in with a damp brush and wriggle on them. And it looks like I'm destroying it, but what I'm doing is that I am kind of softening up the expression so it's not so much in your face. And right here I'm at an area that I really would love to be white. I will try and go in with white gouache. it's more likable. Okay, now for the roses and everything inside that plate. I'm using the warm red for the roses on the top of the plate, and then I'm gonna use the kind of magenta red for the roses on the bottom of the plate. First I just lay it sporadically, and now I go in with a more saturated brush and pick a side. I pick this side to be consequently darker, like the right side of the rose get a little bit more saturated pigment than the left side of the rose. I think it will help it to give it a more 3D shape. And now I'm gonna use the magenta for the rose down here. And it's a very non-intimidating way of making a flower. Simply just got a very sketchy sketch, and you're using wiggling motions with your brush when putting in the pigment. And that's how I avoid having to make an intricate look-alike flower, because it's just so tiny that it will be a Peter to try and make that work, right? Around the roses there is this green leafed oval shape. And this is how I would go about with that flowery look that's on this plate. Oh, we've got a rose down here too. It's very in your face right now, so I actually think that we need to push it back with some white gouache when it has dried up. Just so it doesn't become so dominating when you look at the total painting. It shouldn't be the focal point, you know? Same here, first layer a loose one and then more concentrated in one of the edges. I can see that my red color is kind of disappearing over here. Coming in with yet another wash right there. I like this a lot. Now we can work on this over here to make it more purple. We're using the magenta to make a purple, and the Prussian blue, I think, would be a nice purple. I think I would come in with like a really wet wash, starting all the way from the top where I got the blue. So now we have got a wet wash. It will help me with transporting the color better, in theory. Let's see if it kind of works. I don't mind that it's being like dark in splotchy places. Got a strange area right here. I think I would like to cover that up with some blue colors coming from this angle here. There are some flowers on this vase. Just for fun of it, what happens if we make them like light with white gouache and just see if I just get like an imprint of some sort of flower, but still a purple vase. Let's see how it's gonna dry up. Maybe we are lucky that it will look nice. Okay, up here it still needs to dry, but down here it's kind of semi-dried. So what I want to do to push this back is to give it a coat of white gouache. And this is so likable with gouache that you can do these things. It looks a little bit blurry now because it's wet. Instead of giving the center a bright yellow center, I'm gonna mix with the yellow and the magenta some sort of peachy color, because I really don't like it to be like in your face yellow, the center of these roses. But up here it can be like more bright, so I will go in with a more like a Hansa yellow up here. I need to push back these flowers up here with gouache also. Is it a shame? Maybe, I don't know. I just think that it shouldn't be so explicit, you know, it should be pushed back a little bit. Gonna take some blue tones to the edge of the plate. Okay. Let me just for fun with a gel pen see how it works to do highlight like this. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. But it doesn't really stay super bright. So I may need to come in with a Posca. But how about I put this under a coat of white splatter, and then we can come back with a Posca. Also see how this white gel pen decides to dry up. I just think it would be suitable to have these sketchy lines of white gel pen. Also to super empathize that this is a very sketchy outcome that we are going for. Oh, it has been such a delight to make this. I don't know if you are watching to this end of the stream. I know, it's a long one, but hey, we had to cover up a whole sheet in a very loose way, so it just takes time. Takes the time. These berries right here could also be a little bit yellow, not yellow, highlighted a little bit. Okay, let's give it a coat of splatter, but before I do so, this is the time where you can put in more value. Like here, it doesn't look saturated enough. It would be nice to have it a little bit more darker, in my opinion. And here we could discuss whether this bottle is standing out enough. It really needs to be like pushed back because it's in the back. But is it enough, you know? Can you see the bottle, or will it just like disappear in the color of the background? And those are the decisions that you can only take when the background is done, because that will give you a better view of how your items are appearing. Oops, that was a mistake. I got too dirty a brush to do this. So easily fixed just with water. Okay, I am thinking right now, let me look at the reference photo. She has carried off some of the blue hues into the plate. I can actually do the same to get a more look-alike painting. But I'm telling you, it's not important to stay true to the reference photo. So this is why I'm hoping that this would be a paint along somehow. And why I'm making this long upload. because it is really versatile to do this painting right here in your own colors. What else? The reference photo got an area here with a little bit more pinkish. So let's see if I can pull out some pink. We could have a little bit more blue, ultramarine blue up here. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I'm gonna let this dry. Okay, I'm gonna give this splatter using the toothbrush, and she is going all in with splatter, and that's kind of the texture that she's got on her illustrations. So I'm just gonna go crazy with this splattering too. Already now I can see that it's looking more and more like her artwork with all the splatters. So even though I got like not the nicest background and everything, it kind of, the splattering collects it all and giving it that last finished look. But I still would go in with a Posca pen and then work on that reflection on the bottles, and the vases. Oh man, I don't think that I ever have used so much splatter on a painting before I started painting her illustrations. But it's kind of fun for me because sometimes you just need something different, you know, just to create something different. Otherwise everything that I'm making is sometimes looking the same if I just, or what I'm trying to say is that trying a different style can bring you out of a rut if you are in such a thing. Oh, likable. Not sure I like that giant splat right there. Just gonna remove that. Oh, I got totally dirty finger. So here you go. Look how the splatters really just give it that finished, over exaggerated look of something dreamy. So yep, I like it. Thanks for watching this super long stream. This is the real reference photo, where you also can see her splatter effect. So yeah, don't be afraid to try this. This was a fun one, and it's, like you can see, totally doable. Did you see how sloppy I was with all my washes? I mean, you can do this. So give it a try, and it may look intimidating to start with, like, ugh, you know, like that's a lot of work. But now you have seen me just sitting with a lazy brush and just pouring pigments on this poor piece of paper. So maybe you would be more inclined to give it a go, give it a try. It's fun. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.